Alright, this was a game of runs through 3, and the Wings jumped on the Sparks out the gates, because surprisingly, they were physical defensively, especially in the paint. Their bigs were holding their own in the post, their guards were bodying up on drives, they were scrambling, and for the most part, they were consistent with their switches on the night, so they were getting stops to play in transition. But whenever they weren't, they really struggled to score in the half court, because once the Sparks blew up their initial action, their offense completely stagnated, and this continues to be an ongoing issue for them. I think missing Lee Yuru is a big reason for that, because they use her as a hub to play side to side, and that's an underrated part of her game that helps generate flow. Even though Segrist and Geiselshooter are pop threats, the two aren't as comfortable in that role, so whenever one of them had the rock on a dead possession, it just resulted in a tough shot on ones, because the Sparks were willing to stay at home and live with those. I don't think any of them were good enough on the rock, and obviously that led to Paige having to carry the scoring load, so from the second onward, it was primarily in her hands to basically create everything. She was consistently getting to her spots, either on a post dump or in the SNRs and DHOs, because for some reason, the Sparks bigs were never in position to help, so she kept coming off screens clean, and even on instances when they were ready, she was still beating them off the dribble. She basically got wherever she wanted whenever she wanted, and it was no different off the rock, because every time she came off a pin down, she was getting a clean look, so she maintained her rhythm the entire night. The Sparks even tried to put Rakia on her for extra length in the third, but that didn't work, so then they decided to have Burrell Hardenine for the rest of the second half, and that didn't work either. At that point, the only scheme they could have tried was to all-out sell to force the rock out of her hands when she did have it, because the rest of the Wings showed they weren't capable of scoring, so I was surprised that wasn't something they even attempted, and she single-handedly damn near beat them herself. But fortunately for them, the Wings had their own questionable coaching decisions, and more importantly, they had a much more balanced offense because they got production from top to bottom, especially from Rakia, so it was basically Paige versus the Sparks. As good as the Wings' defense was during stretches of the game, they unfortunately gave her some open looks from deep that got her into a rhythm early, because they messed up a switch and didn't match up on a couple instances in transition, so those were all it took for her to single-handedly get the Sparks' offense going. She ignited that 15-3 run to end the first that shifted the momentum, then the team ran with it the entire second to take control of the game, and they all got to establish a rhythm because of what she started. Hamby was able to start finishing at the rim on some duck-ins, seals, or pocket passes, and even Brink was getting some easy ones because she was benefiting off Plum as a screener throughout, so anytime she was involved, whether it was a Spain in the first half or a flex into a rip in the fourth, it was freeing up Brink to eat. Between her and Alamon handling the rock, I can understand why they use her off it as much as they do, because it allows her to conserve her energy, and it paid off in this game. Once the fourth started, they were going to her every time down, and she was looking to attack non-stop, especially against the Wings bigs, because the Wings were having them switch into SNRs or DHOs, so she wanted to exploit that mismatch as often as possible. After seeing that the entire quarter, I just don't understand why the Wings coach allowed it to happen on the final possession, because it was obvious that's what Plum was going to look for, and it cost them, but the sequence of events in the final minute was just as much the players' fault too. Hines Allen lost the rock when she just had to keep possession, then Paige went too early in the shot clock, and for some reason, that prompted James to put the shot up instead of passing it back out to burn more time, but what she didn't do on the final possession was even worse. Geiselshooter was aggressive on the switch to push Kelsey because she was expecting help on the backside, and instead of being ready to either force Plum to pass or take a tough shot, James decided not to cheat off Alamon when everyone in the arena knew Plum was going to take the last shot, so Plum got a wide open float going to her strong hand to call game. Just watch the tape.
She got it! Kelsey Plum with the